Hello and welcome back to A Screenwriter's Journey. Lucky Day 13. Sometimes people ask me, do you have any superstitions when it comes to writing? And I answer no. Do you have any things that you do commonly every day? Do you have a certain snack? Do you have a certain drink? Do you sit in a certain spot or whatever? And I say no. No one's really ever asked me that, but I thought it would be interesting. So I literally am leaving off where I was on day 12, at the end of day 12, no surprise. And I had mentioned that maybe I quit writing that day because I didn't know what Gary and Abby were going to do. Now apparently, and again, disclaimer, I'm putting this commentary on at least, well, it's more than 30 days. It's probably 45 days after I wrote this. So I have no clear memory because as with all first drafts, what you wrote is not necessarily going to stay there into what you might consider your first draft ready for other people to read. So now I'm thinking, I know during probably my off writing time, I went back and I was thinking, do I really want Holly and Paul to be in this room as I had set it up? And if so, how can I move it along maybe a little quicker? And because, I mean, I've got that darn 14 years. Every time I see that now, I kind of chuckle in a humorless way because I just mentioned it so many times. So when you've got two people, I mean, they're talking, they're a little character developed, maybe you're learning some backstory, but basically they're giving out information. And is that the most exciting way to do it? Having two people sit there unless something really crazy is going on around them, or what they say is just Aaron Sorkin sparkling dialogue. And frankly, I mean, I know his work and all that, but I've never been a huge fan. But he does write some mean dialogue. I did watch The Social Network, which I believe he wrote. Anyways, okay, so yeah, this I cringe when I read this now. That bad things happen when you make decisions from here instead of here. And I hope this didn't make the final version of my first draft, because again, this is sort of the point, not the whole point of the story, but Holly being the, hard-edged, hardball person, and yet she's come back because she feels an attachment to Lexi. And is it just duty? Is it responsibility? Is there something deeper? Maybe we'll find out. Maybe there'll be a sappy bit of dialogue near the end, which I may still have in now that I think about it. But if the actress delivers it well, it'll come out well. So I wrote this maybe, hopefully, as a reminder that that's kind of the theme. Will it make it past this first draft? Who knows? That line of Holly's that ends that scene, I never tell you that to your face. That's frankly another groaner, which sometimes you just have to get out of a scene. And I don't know if when I wrote that I said, wow, that's really brilliant or not. We'll see, because maybe I still have it in there. So I believe Gary has left already, but Abby is still there, hoping not to be seen. Whoops. What's going on here? Okay, so sorry, they've exited. Abby is staying hidden, so she hears what's going on. Paul and Holly are kind of finishing their conversation. You're half right. It's out. Oh, that's very clever of me. He says it's out of our hands, and she says you're half right, meaning it's out of your hands. And then Paul, understanding what's going on, says, hey, don't. Calls after her, knows it's probably not going to do any good. And then at the top of 52, and again, I don't know if this is going to make it past this cut, but the idea is that Paul is sort of her uncle figure, like she is Lexi's aunt figure, which I've mentioned. And so I kind of, not totally on the nose dialogue, but somewhat, I release you from whatever guardian angel role my dad cursed you with. And Paul, he hears it, but he's not really applying to it. He's just saying, look, you got to get out of here, and gets upset with her. Of course, Abby hears this whole thing, and she's just, you can picture her there just, ooh. Gary in the Double Dove cabin he's super frustrated. He hears the slamming door, of course. He goes over there to see what's going on. Holly is running up the road. Oh, she didn't slam the door to the... he slammed the door, but not to the car. But anyways, he's frustrated and, like I said, pissed at everything, everyone, even himself. So then he starts going through the woods. Meanwhile, at the trampoline park, Lexi and Larry have been there for 2 hours, maybe 3 hours, and lo and behold, here comes Rachel. Now, that opening line, how are my little lovebirds getting along, is just to remind the audience that as far as Rachel's concerned, she assumes, of course, that Larry is Lexi's boyfriend, because why else would she be with him? Be with her, sorry. And so they pretty much know, since she wasn't unconscious with them, that she's got some inside story, inside track, and that's what Lexi's trying to find out. Rachel, not wanting to answer, takes a look over at Larry and tries to sort of butter him up / butter her up. And then we've got the classic misunderstanding where Rachel says, how serious is this? And then Lexi says, considering my mother's basically kidnapped me, I'd say very. And so whether Lexi thinks that that's what Holly was talking about, probably not, but she's answering a different question, which is kind of, I always say I've heard that dialogue, whether it's questions and answers or just people talking, when it causes somewhat confusion, you can sort of tell two stories at once, which is kind of cool. Dropbox, you've added 2 files. And so that's what I did there. Sorry. Okay, now this is very interesting. Rachel obviously hasn't told them much. If you've been reading instead of listening to me, has not told them much, and says you'll find out soon enough. And so guess who's here? Here is good old gangster, crime lord, crime magnate, whatever, Vic. I looked up Salerno because I'm not a big mob person myself. So I looked up like most popular mob names or something. I don't know. And that's what came up. And I figured Vic would be a pretty good person. And actually, I may have changed his age later on because I think he should be a little bit older than that. So he's there. And the first thing he does, of course, is look at Lexi and wants to sort of look her over. Lexi immediately is stubborn, and hence Salerno's first line, which tells us and Lexi and Larry that Salerno must know her pretty well. She's been in jail all this time, so how would he know that she is, stubborn or whatever? So Salerno, again, tries to get her to turn around, sort of showing off. And Lexi's having none of that. And he confirms that Rachel hasn't told him anything. So now Salerno has got to do the cell job. She doesn't know. Now, I'm not sure. Lexi's saying, I'd rather be with my friends. That doesn't really give anything away, I don't think, which is a good thing. And so having heard that, Salerno is like, oh, all right, she doesn't know. be thinking that maybe Rachel wasn't telling him the truth. You've always got to have a little, to me, not really confusion for the audience, but misunderstanding within the characters to keep it kind of juicy. So now Salerno, as I said, he's got to do the sell job. And so what he's going to tell Lexi is all this cool stuff that is going to be hers, what a great life she's going to lead. And Rachel is going to sort of pile on also in a good way. And the reason I did this, as I said, kind of the same reason they went to the trampoline park instead of some shady, crappy warehouse or dungeon or basement, is that the idea is that Salerno, his intentions for Lexi are certainly not to hurt her, to give her a good life, sheltered life, shower her with gifts. And by extension, Rachel thinks that all of this is going to reflect well on her. Obviously, she doesn't know her daughter. She hasn't seen her for all these years. And so her assumptions are probably not the best, but they're her assumptions nonetheless. And so she figures, hey, if we can bribe her by, buying her a car, sending her on vacations, paying for her college, et cetera, that Lexi might at least consider going with Salerno, although, does she have a choice? Probably not. And then Salerno sort of, not funny, but, and he's probably not necessarily joking, but he starts talking about kids when he looks at Larry. And so it's obvious that he wants grandkids. And now here's the bombshell, which probably isn't a bombshell. Grandpa Vic ain't getting any younger. So you can imagine, and I don't know how much foreshadowing, I'd have to read through the script to see how much foreshadowing there has been. And this is page 55, so a little more than halfway through. I think I'm going to try to make this 110 pages or less. I hope. I was originally shooting for 100, I remember. But as we end a day, we see that Lexi has just discovered that he, as in Vic Salerno, may be her grandfather if, in fact, her mom, Rachel, had an affair, slept with whatever, either Salerno, no, because it's a grandfather, his son, who is no longer alive, which I think we already know. But anyways, that is how day 13 ends. And once again, I've talked longer than I've written, but that's because I sped it up 500% to keep things moving along. I hope you continue to enjoy it. I don't really know if you're learning anything. I guess it just is such a weird experiment. But anyways, I won't wax philosophical. I'll just end the day. And I hope you come back for day 14, because there'll be at least a day 14. There'll probably be a lot more than that. So see you again on a screenwriter's journey.